David Sirota with yet another devastating piece on PBS. He's the one that did the piece, The Wolf of Sesame Street, where they talked about how they had a billionaire who's against pension plans fund a series against pension plans on PBS. That was devastating. Covered that on the Young Turks before. Now he's got a story out about who owns the McNeil-Lehrer NewsHour. Now that's interesting, right? Because you would think that nobody owns that. What do you mean NewsHour, right? You can't own the NewsHour. I know that it used to be called the McNeil-Lehrer, now it's just NewsHour. Turns out that's wrong. Someone does own it. Isn't that fascinating? Liberty Media, owned by conservative billionaire, here we go again, John Malone. He owns the NewsHour. He has majority ownership. Now, it's interesting because the president of PBS, when he was talking about the NewsHour before, said it is ours and ours alone. Apparently not the case. As Sirota reports here at Pando Daily, however, since 1994, the NewsHour has been produced and primarily owned by the for-profit colossus Liberty Media. Liberty, which is run by the conservative billionaire John Malone, owns the majority stake in McNeil-Lehrer Productions, the entity that produces the journalistic content of the show. Wow. If you had asked me that a week ago, I would have guessed wrong. Okay, I'm really surprised by that. Now, he goes on to explain, during Liberty's ownership of NewsHour, exactly how much money from viewers like us and taxpayers like us went from PBS to NewsHour and into the coffers of Liberty? That's a bit of a devastating question as well. And it might have an exact answer. So, first of all, understand that Liberty Media has owned it since then, but now they are announcing, and part of the reason that this story broke, that they're going to give it back to WETA, which is one of the affiliates of PBS, the very large one, obviously, right? So that's what made people go, wait a minute, what do you mean give it back to PBS, right? And it turns out the NewsHour takes about $28 million a year to run. And so it's a very good question, where does that $28 million come from and where does it go, right? And then Sirota went on to ask, and how much control did Liberty have over NewsHour's journalistic output? Now, when I first read that question in the beginning of the article, I thought, come on, no, Liberty Media is not going to influence what's in the NewsHour, right? Hold, there's some interesting evidence near the end here. Well, first on the question of how much money goes in, the McNeil-Lehrer production spokesperson said, PBS funding represents roughly half the PBS NewsHour revenue budget. Okay, so that means $14 million goes in from that bucket that has your donations and taxpayer funds, goes into the NewsHour. Now, of that $14 million that goes in every year, how much does Liberty Media take out in profits? It's a for-profit company. They won't answer that. Okay, now the spokesperson continues. Liberty Media takes no profit from the ongoing operation of the PBS NewsHour program. Okay, so then Sirota logically asked them, okay, can you show us that? Is there any documentation that shows that there's no profit? Nope, can't show you that. Now, because of the previous scandal, they said they were going to be far more transparent. Great, this is a great opportunity for you to be transparent. Either show us the books in any way that you can, show us the contracts and that they're not going to make money. Turns out they can't, or they refuse to do that. Right now, if you think, well, I'll just take their word for it, they're PBS, they're not going to lie, right? Hold. Now, back in 1994, when they were doing this transaction, Variety had a source familiar with the negotiations that said, John Malone may want the goodwill this buys him, but he's also in this to make money. Now, you might say, hey, that's just a source familiar with the negotiations, but it's anonymous. Now, understand that since Liberty Media is for profit, they have a fiduciary responsibility to make money and to turn a profit. You can't just sit on a property like that for 20 years and never make any profit and not have your shareholders ask about it. There's got to be some purpose. Is it marketing? Is it branding? Is it dollars? What is it? But if you say, well, maybe they put aside their fiduciary responsibility and maybe that was an anonymous quote. Well, then hear John Malone himself. This is what he said back then. Nobody wants to go out and invest hundreds of millions of dollars of risk capital for the public interest. One would be fired as an executive of a profit-making company if he took that stance. Oops. So how much profit did John Malone and Liberty Media make off NewsHour for decades? How much of that was the donations you gave them? How much of that was taxpayer dollars? I don't know the answers to those questions, but they're damn good questions, and PBS better come up with some answers and not just some loose talk. All right. Now, did this affect their programming at all? Now, we generally just call John Malone a conservative, but there's reason that we say that. Over the about 20 years of this ownership that they've had of the NewsHour, majority stake, the minority stake is McNeil and Lehrer. John Malone has given about $200,000 in political contributions, almost all of it to Republicans. The people that work at Liberty Media, including some of the top executives, have given in that same time period $2 million, almost all to Republicans. So did that come out on air? I mean, McNeil Lehrer Productions says, no way, man. We had editorial control over this, and it's possible. And another thing that Sirota asks is, if that's true and it's in the contract, can we see that part of the contract? That's a very good question. And maybe it is the case. That's why you've got to show it. Otherwise, we can't take your word for it, especially given this evidence. Back in 2006, Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting did an analysis of PBS. Republicans outnumbered Democrats as guests on the NewsHour by 2-1. Now, that's a substantial margin. Now, you could say, hey, maybe it's because they thought, well, everybody accuses us of being liberal, so let's just overcompensate for that and bring 2-1 Republicans on. First of all, that's no excuse. Just because you want to respond to Rush Limbaugh or Fox News, you can't skew all of your guests in favor of Republicans by a 2-1 margin. That's outrageous, right? Second of all, it might not be that complicated. It might be that the majority ownership of NewsHour is Republican. That's why they have more Republicans on. Well, okay, to be fair, did they have a lot of public interest groups? I mean, this is PBS. You would think if anybody's going to have public interest groups looking out for the consumer, the citizens, it would be PBS. Same 2006 report. Public interest groups accounted for just 4% of total sources. That's pathetic, by the way. So let me go ask corporations, let me go ask the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, the establishment, but people looking out for consumers, I don't need them, right? And just in case you thought it was just 2006, Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting did another study in 2010. Republicans outnumbered Democrats among NewsHour guests by a 3-to-2 ratio in 2010. So that problem persisted for quite some time. PBS has got a lot of explaining to do. This does not look good. And if they're worried that this is going to hurt their donations and they're worried about David Sirota's reporting, well, you should be worried about the truth. So if there's good answers for this, we're looking for them right now. Otherwise, this looks really, really bad.